If you don't use Claude, you're falling behind. Because Anthropic just released Sonnet 4.5, Claude Code 2.0, a new agent SDK, browser use, and so much more. My name is Ondrej and I'm the founder of Vector.ai. Over the last 3 years, I've spent hundreds of hours building software with AI. And in this video, we'll look at the new Claude updates, how Sonnet 4.5 compares to GPT-5, and how you can build anything with it. So Claude is having its own ChatGPT moment, and that's because Anthropic just released Sonnet 4.5, which in many ways is the best model in the world. It's exactly 5 times cheaper than Opus 4.1, which was already incredible, while beating it on nearly every benchmark. Now, since Sonnet 4.5 released, I've spent more than 20 hours testing it, building with it, and comparing it to other cutting-edge models. And I must say, this model is different. For example, on the famous SWE Bench verified benchmark for software engineering, it's better than everything else in the world right now, both without reasoning and with reasoning enabled. Oh yeah, and if that wasn't enough, Anthropic also dropped Claude Code 2.0 with several major upgrades, such as checkpoints, which is a way to go back and access a previous state of the conversation, a new revamped terminal interface with a cool mascot, context editing, IDE extension. There is a lot, okay? Claude Code has improved massively, and that's because this is by far the biggest Claude Code update ever. And you'll see why I think that in a bit. Alright, so when I say that Claude is becoming better than ChatGPT, let me show you what I mean. So here I have prepared a prompt for a simple app. Create a JavaScript app where text explodes into particles that respond to mouse movement with options for different physics like magnetism, repulsion, or orbital motion. And you can see that Sonnet 4.5 is already way faster than Opus 4.1. And that's because it's a smaller model, while at the same time being a more powerful, intelligent model. And boom, just like that, in a matter of 20 seconds, we have our app finished. So let's open this up and let me see. This is insane. All right, let's try repulsion. This is incredible. And this was done in a single prompt, one shot, no corrections, no errors. It's safe to say this model is amazing at programming. Now, I think you might start to understand what I mean by saying Claude is underrated. Also, you can now create and edit sheets, documents, slides, and PDFs directly inside of Claude.ai. It's funny because most people are still not using Claude, they're using ChatGPT. But even those that are using Claude, the vast majority of them have no idea that these features and connectors even exist, let alone how to use them. So let me show you how to set this up, because it's actually much simpler and easier than you think. All right, so let's jump back into Claude, just create a new chat, and then click on this settings button right here. This will open up different search options, right, such as extended thinking. Definitely have this enabled, but then also we can connect Google Drive, Gmail, and Calendar. And as you can see, I have Google Drive already enabled. If you don't have anything connected, just choose one of them, click on connect, go through the steps. Super easy, takes like 20 seconds. Once you do that, reload the site, and then you should be able to see Google Drive or Gmail or Calendar connected. Just toggle it on. And then let me show you how powerful this is. You can send a prompt something like this. Which video ideas is my team working on? List out the 5 most recent Google Docs, right? And there we go. The search is finished and we have 5 Google Docs that it pulled up. And yeah, those are actually the 5 most recent video ideas that we worked on. And this one is the video you're watching right now. Now, Claude also became much better at vibe coding. In fact, this might be vibe coding 2.0 because Anthropic just released Claude Imagine. And this is a completely new way of building software. The app you describe is generated on the go. So you don't need to wait for hundreds of lines of code to be written and then hope that they compile without any errors. No, that's vibe coding 1.0. This, Claude Imagine, works on pre-built components. So it's basically like its own operating system in a way, where it can generate custom UI in real time. So to test it out, go to Claude.ai/imagine. Not everybody has access, so keep that in mind. All right, so let's give it a shot. Click on let's go. And you can see basically like a mini operating system gets loaded. We can move stuff around. So let me show you one of these presets. And you chat with Claude and it generates stuff, but it generates it procedurally. It's not like it has to write a 1,000-line program. See, like it's generating it one by one. It's like adding a component and you can already interact with the other ones. As you explore the app, it's built in real time. This is completely different than any other vibe coding tool. So like, let's see, like, for example, this guild quest, right? I click on that and Claude begins generating the UI for that. And as I'm trying to see like what I like, what interests me, it goes with that direction. It's like completely different level of creative exploration. A map with 10 points of hidden treasures. Now, the obvious downside of this is that it's not reproducible software and it's basically generating tokens for everything, even stuff that should just be a few lines of Python. So you can see the tools that it's calling window_new, creates a new window, and now it's drawing some SVG components, creating a map based on my description. This is very, very cool. Now, if you really want to understand Claude 4.5 Sonnet, you have to learn about this new concept of context anxiety. So this is a new term coined by the article from Cognition AI, the creators of Devin, where they discuss their experience with Sonnet 4.5 because they were granted early access. Now, this model, Claude 4.5 Sonnet, is the first model in the history of AI that is actually aware of its context window. So what that means, it knows how many tokens it used up and how much is left. And this completely changes how it behaves. So for example, as it gets closer to its context limit, it starts to summarize its progress, which is good to save up some tokens, but also it starts to develop this context anxiety, which is basically a tendency to rush tasks into completion. If it thinks that, oh no, I only have 15% of the context window left, it doesn't do proper job. Instead, it tries to kind of pack it up quickly and finish whatever it's doing, even if that means taking some shortcuts. Now here is a visualization of how the context editing works. So before context editing, you have some tokens from tool use, from the tool results, maybe some chatting, conversation, another tool use, stuff like that. This is what the context window might look like. After context editing, it compacts the oldest ones. So here is the current state. This is your last message on the right, and this is the oldest stuff in the conversation, right? So whatever you send at the very beginning is probably the least relevant. So it's compacted into the true essentials. And then as you keep progressing towards your latest messages, you can see that there is more available context because the oldest parts of the conversations have been compressed. Now, as if all of that wasn't enough, there is another major release, and that is computer use, which might be one of the most exciting parts actually, because AI agents are starting to use our browsers. So, Anthropic also released a browser extension, official Claude browser extension, which basically lets Claude control your browser, no big deal. Another massive update that most people aren't paying attention of. And this is a major hit to companies like Perplexity, who are building products like Comet or Dia browser, because these AI-powered browsers have several massive issues, such as privacy, right? I was using Comet for a solid 2-3 weeks until I did some deep research into how much data it collects on you. And this is basically spyware. It's building digital profiles of every single click, every single search, every single thing you hover over, every single website you visit, even your mouse patterns, right? And it's trying to build a digital avatar so that then it can run ads. The issue is, me and you, we want to be on the cutting edge. And this is exactly where the Claude extension comes into place. You can still use privacy-first browsers like Brave and use AI agents with browser use on top of that without selling your data and selling your soul. So let me show you what this Claude browser extension can actually do. Now, this is still a pilot program, and what that means is that they only give access to 1,000 users with the max plan. Now, luckily, I am one of those 1,000 people, so I can access the extension, right? So if you want to try, if you're in those 1,000 people, just go to Claude.ai/Chrome and see if you can install the extension. If you can, you're going to get redirected to this website where you can try a demo of how the computer use agent works. So again, it's in the top right. Open it up and you'll be required to log in to your Claude account. Okay, so just click on authorize. And then let's click on this plus icon, which pre-sends this prompt. It's kind of small. And as you can see, this orange outline means that Claude is taking control of this browser window. So it's asking me for permission to read the page content. So I'm going to allow this action. So then it's taking a screenshot of this page. Okay, so it can see the email inbox with several emails. I can identify, and it's completing this demo. So this is a challenge, right? So you can see how it operates, how it can read a website, how it can take actions, and it's asking for permission again. And we can actually click on always allow actions on this side. So let's allow that. And let's watch Claude take control. My hands are off the keyboard, right? I'm not doing anything. Boom, there it is. So it's clicking archive. It's archiving one of the emails, took a screenshot again, and then it read the page. So it read the HTML DOM to find the exact buttons. And then it found ref21 is the correct button, and it clicked the button. And we can see that it's managing this, email inbox demo. Now, what's even better than a demo of an email inbox is if it can actually manage your real inbox. So let's give it a shot. Let's open up the extension and you can see that there is something predefined for Gmail, such as unsubscribe from promotional email, archive non-important emails, draft response for emails. So let me do something custom. I'm going to switch it to act without asking, which kind of gives this warning mode. You can see these yellow lines. I'm going to say archive all the declined emails about people declining Google Meet calls. Do not change anything else, just to be sure, because this is still a pilot program. It's basically earlier than a beta version, right? So I don't want it to start messing around with sending emails from my actual email inbox or archiving important stuff. So now it's searching for declined. Okay, it's actually working pretty fast. It's impressive. So now it filtered to emails where people declined Google Meet calls. Now it's selecting all of them. Whoa. Maybe not all of them, maybe not all of them. So I stopped it. I'm gonna say maybe not all, just archive the latest 5. Okay, I'm gonna do smiley face to kind of encourage it. Good that I noticed that. Okay, it's going again. Nothing is selected now. Nice. Now it's going one by one. So as you can see, it's still needs a bit of the instruction, but it can actually do all the actions. It's not struggling with clicking buttons or with understanding. It completely knows what you want it to do. You just need to do a little bit of hand-holding and be very clear in your prompts, and it will do exactly what you want. And it skipped those emails that didn't fit the criteria. Wow, this is pretty crazy. It's trying to give it a label, which is not the right way to do it. There is an archive button. Okay. Oh, it noticed that. I actually opened the label button. Let me close this. Pressed escape to close it. Let's see if it can find the archive button correctly. It found the archive button, and there it is. 5 conversations were archived. All done. Now again, if you are a low IQ person, you might think, okay, David, but you had to interfere. You had to be very specific in your prompts. Guys, this is still early days. Use a bit of your imagination and see where this will be 6 months from now, 12 months from now, where these AI agents will be able to navigate every single website. Basically better than the average knowledge worker at a company with remarkable consistency and reliability, right? Now, what you just saw is the level 1 of this extension. The second level is actually the super small settings button in the top right. And when you open that, you can click on shortcuts. This is why you should subscribe to this channel, because I actually show you all of this hidden stuff that nobody else covers, right? So if you aren't subscribed, go below, click the subscribe button. It's completely free, and you will not miss the cutting edge AI updates. So here you can click on create shortcut. And basically this is like a mini automation. This is a slash command. You can say archive useless emails. And then the prompt would be open Gmail and look through the latest unread messages, and anything that's obviously useless or low leverage, just archive it right away. And obviously you should ideally spend more time on the prompt, but this will do for now. And then start from, you can give it a starting URL. So I can just paste in Gmail, boom, maybe without the search. And then the beauty here is that you can run it on a schedule. So let's say you do daily, 9 a.m. and it will just manage your email inbox every day at 9 a.m. Whatever you want it to do, you can now automate it to run daily or weekly, monthly, annually, maybe like check for birthdays or something. Like there's a lot, right? You can get creative and you can figure out how this browser use agent could be useful. But again, this is just scratching the surface of what it can do. And honestly, this will probably require its whole video to explore this fully. So if you want me to make a full dedicated video on the Claude Chrome extension, comment below. And if I see a lot of people commenting, maybe I'll consider making another video on this. Now, if you're a developer, you will be very interested in this because Anthropic is giving us an Agent SDK. And what that means is the behind the scenes of Claude Code. So this is a collection of tools that helps developers build AI agents. And not only that, it actually helps you build AI agents the same way they are building Claude Code. So it's the same infrastructure that powers Claude Code, which is very, very nice. Anthropic is releasing a lot of these secrets. Now, it's not fully open source, but the fact that you can still use the same tools and frameworks that work behind the scenes of what makes Claude Code great, it's very nice. So let me give you a quick overview of this powerful framework, which again, most content creators ignored for some reason. Maybe they're just scared of programming. I don't know. First part is the AI agents manual. They found that giving Claude access to computer, aka computer use, unlocks the ability to build way more efficient agents, right? So here are some examples on the right: finance, personal assistant agents, customer support. No matter what you want to build, giving it access to the right tools and the right environments is absolutely key. Now, behind the scenes, Claude Code operates in a feedback loop. So it gathers context, takes an action, verifies the work that, the action actually did what you want it to do, and then it repeats. And this is basically the 4-step loop that keeps running behind the scenes when you're using Claude Code, when you're chatting with it. And Anthropic didn't hold back. They gave us specific suggestions on how this SDK can improve each one of these steps. So step 1 is gathering context. When developing an agent, it needs to be able to fetch and update its own context, right? Because if it doesn't have enough information, even if it's using a 300 IQ AGI model, if it doesn't have the right info, if it doesn't have the context of how you want it to do the task, it will not be able to do the task. Now, the SDK organizes information using folders and files, making it easy for the agent to find what it needs. And if you actually work with Claude Code, you'll find that the best way to manage context is actually saving the important stuff externally, right? Into Markdown files, text files, documentation, visual graphs, not just only relying on the context window. And when reading context, especially when it's large files, it only loads the relevant parts instead of everything at once. So imagine if you have a very long file, 500 lines of code, 1,000 lines. Ideally, you would have a more modular code base, but let's be honest, sometimes it happens to all of us where we have super long files. Well, your first instinct, and I made this mistake in the past myself, would be to load the entire file into Claude Code. The issue with that is context overload, right? It's just too much stuff at once, and most of it is not relevant. A much better approach, and if you actually watch how Claude Code works, you'll see that it does this, is only loading the relevant parts, right? So when there's a bug on line 75, instead of reading all 400 lines of the file, it reads maybe the 20 lines before and 20 lines after, so that it tries to figure out why the bug is happening. And it only reads more lines of code if it didn't get enough context from those nearby lines. So it's much more intelligent system of managing context. It also automatically summarizes past conversations to keep important information available without running out of space. And we've seen a visualization of that earlier. Step number 2 is taking action. This is all about tools, right? AI agents use tools to take actions, which could be like a single function or a series of functions to do a specific thing. And this is absolutely essential for completing tasks, because if you just have an AI agent running locally on your machine with no tools, no APIs, it cannot do anything, even if it's the most powerful model in existence. Now, these tools should be focused. You shouldn't give it random tools, because those are also distractions. They should be tools designed to what you want the agent to do. So if it's like an email responding agent, it should be open Gmail, read email, write a draft email, anything related to managing your email, right? You shouldn't be giving it the calculator tool. You shouldn't be giving it, Python backend debugging tool. It's useless. If it's an email management agent that you're building, give it tools to manage email. Step number 3 is verifying the work, right? This is a step that most people skip because it's not sexy, it's kind of boring. But if you want to build reliable agents that actually work in production, it is absolutely essential. With the Agent SDK, you can add checks to make sure things are correct, right? So if it writes some code, run a test. If it writes an email, take a screenshot, make sure the email is actually there. Same thing for visual tasks like building front-end, HTML. It can take screenshots, it can check its work, it can read the DOM. There is a lot of different verifying steps it can do to make sure that the action, or let's say it's you're working with a database, right? And you told it to write an entry into the DB. Before continuing, it can just do another tool call, but this time doing a read query, checking if the table has been modified and if the new row was added to the database. Now, the agent performing these checks is absolutely the difference between reliable, consistent agents that can be trusted and deployed into real businesses to automate important work, and between AI agents that are just like what you see on YouTube. A lot of these creators, vibe code something, but no real company would ever use that. And this is the difference, using serious frameworks, using serious testing, unit tests, verification, monitoring, telemetry, all of this stuff that you only learn when you go deep, when you spend hundreds of hours, if not thousands of hours building software. This is not what you learn with a quick vibe coding demo from a 5-minute tutorial. And I suspect this is the reason why most people completely missed the Agent SDK release and why they don't realize the implications of this. So here is the plan. Next, I'll show you the new Claude Code 2.0 and how it compares to Codex with the new GPT-5 Codex High model from OpenAI. We'll also go over the strengths and weaknesses of the new Sonnet 4.5 model, plus my own lessons and observations from testing it non-stop for 4 straight days. And I'll show you how you can use this new LLM to build great software. So let's get started. All right, so open up your code editor of choice. Doesn't matter which IDE you use. I use Cursor, also use VS Code. You can use Windsurf, doesn't matter. Just open up an empty folder. The reason why it doesn't matter is because you can use Claude Code in the terminal. Now this is Codex. We don't want to be using Codex. We want to be using the terminal and type Claude, right? If you don't have Claude Code installed, what are you doing? Go ahead and install it. I made dozens of videos on it because it's amazing. But yeah, this is the terminal version, right? So you're probably familiar with this if you watch my channel. And you can see that there is new UI. So we have this mascot, the crab. And we can see that we're using Sonnet 4.5, the new model. We can see that we're on the Claude Code 2.0 version. And we have some tips. But other than that, this is the familiar terminal interface. But there is a second way to use Claude Code now, and that is the extension. So if you go to extensions, boom, and it's named Claude Code for VS Code. Literally type in that, Claude Code for VS Code from Anthropic. I don't know why it has shit reviews. That's kind of retarded. I think you need a Microsoft account. Open VFX registry. Yeah, you need some crazy account for this. I don't know. People are hating on it for no reason. Download this. Okay, set this up. You'll see this button right here. When you click this, it opens up the extension. Okay, and this is what it looks like. It's basically the same capability, but with a different UI. So here you can do Shift-Enter, which is great because in the terminal, Shift-Enter doesn't work. It just sends the message. Never mind, it works now. Maybe I'm just crazy, but literally this didn't work for forever. So now it works again. Amazing. Anyways, this is just a different UI, right? So here you can paste in images easier. You can chat with it. It's another way of using Claude Code. Now, I'm going to just tell you the secret right away. I'm going to cut the shit. The way to use it is with Codex. So if someone says like, oh, David, is it better than Codex? Or should I use Claude Code or Codex? The answer is both. They both have completely different strengths, okay? There's not a single answer. Like if you just want a single answer, like, I don't know, just like these people like, oh, what's the secret? What's the one thing I can do to get into shape? What do you mean one thing? You have to do like 10 different things to be in great shape. Well, what's the one thing I can do to build a successful business? Be quiet, okay? So you need to use all of the best tools at your disposal, right? So you can see I'm using Cursor, which is the best AI coding IDE. Inside of Cursor, I'm using the two best coding agents, which is Claude Code and Codex, right? And both of them, I'm using them in the extension and in the CLI. So here we have the Claude Code. Let me kill it, terminal. Boom, Claude, right? This is how you use it in the CLI, which is command line interface, by the way, which is the terminal. Here's how you use Codex in the CLI, which you should do parameter -- search, and then you need to allow it, right? So we have Codex running GPT-5 Codex High, which is the best model from OpenAI in the terminal. We have it running in the extension, which by the way, you install it the same, OpenAI Codex. You install it exactly the same as any other extension inside of VS Code. So we have Codex extension, we have Codex CLI, we have Claude Code CLI, Claude Code extension. This is literally how I work. I'm using all of the best AI agents at my disposal in a way where they are the best, right? So let's get practical. How is Claude Code better than Codex? In what ways would I use each of them, right? The best way to explain it is that Claude is nicer to work with. So if I say like, create a new MD file named vision.md. It will do exactly what you want and it will do it quickly and it's great explaining fakes and stuff like that, right? The way to explain it is like Claude Code is a friendly coworker that you just love to see. You have a great rapport with that coworker. You are friends together. You love chatting with him. And it's a great person, it's a competent coworker. Codex is like the person who sits in the room. He's kind of antisocial. He doesn't really like anybody, doesn't talk to anybody, but he's a genius programmer. And everybody knows it. This is the difference between Codex and Claude Code. Codex, especially with GPT-5 High selected, which is the main model you should be using, is really good. It's really insanely good. I mean, it's crazy, right? But sometimes it just takes 10 minutes to do the dumbest thing. Something that Claude Code can do in 1 minute. Sometimes it has a tendency to overthink, right? Which is good if you're doing a risky change. If you're refactoring an essential part of the code base or fixing like a very deep bug that you've been battling it for many hours, you want it to prepare. You want it to over-prepare. You want it to do a lot of thinking, to spend 10, 15, 20 minutes preparing, analyzing the code base, using as many tools as possible before it takes any actions. You want it to do that. But sometimes you want quick changes, quick, safe changes of the front end, some tweaks. This is where Claude Code comes into place. Now, obviously, you can select GPT-5 Low, which thinks less on average, lower reasoning effort. But still, even on low and medium, Codex still has a tendency to overthink. So that's why I'm saying, like, you really should use both, and you should know when to deploy each model and when each AI agent is struggle and where are its strengths and weaknesses if you want to be at the cutting edge, at the top 0.01% of AI programming. Because I want to make a clear distinction, right? There is vibe coders, just people who use tools like Lovable, V0, Replit, Bold, who just like type in stuff or like speak, please build me an app that looks like Shopify, but it's actually for Uber drivers and it's like Airbnb clone and do not make any mistakes. Those are vibe coders, right? And there is nothing wrong starting as a vibe coder. But the goal of every vibe coder should be to become a real coder. This is the difference between people who will be stuck and endlessly in mediocrity and people who will achieve greatness. Are you afraid to get your hands dirty, right? Will you forever be afraid of code, or will you learn the fundamentals so that you can move 10 times faster? Because let me get something straight. Even though AI is becoming great at programming, I'm spending 1 to 2 hours per day studying software architecture, software design, programming, manually coding without AI. Why? Because I recognize that if you really want to get the most out of these models, you have to get the most out of this model, the OG neural network that's in your head. If you haven't maximized, which by the way, nobody has maximized, if you haven't maximized your own skill set and your own potential and your own technical abilities, oh my God, it's actually building this slope. Okay, that's crazy. I didn't want it to build that app. Let me just delete this. Actually, I'm going to get started on the app I want to build. So before I go on that rant, let me just get it started. So I want to build a new algorithm that came to me as I was struggling to fall asleep. This algorithm is for optimizing time to first token for AI models, right? So we will be using Anthropic API with the new Claude 4.5 Sonnet model. And obviously there's a certain delay between the first token comes into place. And this is constant and consistent for everybody that uses the Anthropic API. However, I had an idea how to build a chat application that actually has a faster time to first token. And that is going to be thanks to preloading. So we're going to be looking at how the user is typing inputs, right? So what I need you to do is build a very simple front end. Choose the simplest tech stack possible, right? Just Python backend and JavaScript front end. Let's keep it super simple. And it's going to be a clean, minimal chat application powered by Anthropic API. And the main differentiator with this algorithm for optimizing time to first token is that we're going to be paying attention to the typing patterns of the user. And if the user stops typing for more than 700 milliseconds or longer, we're going to silently send the message on the backend to the Anthropic API. So that if the user then actually sends the message without adding any extra characters, we would have already began processing that request. And therefore, we can cut down the perceived time to first token versus if we actually waited for the user to press enter. Now, it's important that if the user continues typing, we abort or abandon that previous API call and we repeat the process. Again, looking at the cadence of his inputs and the delays between these characters, I just gave you a lot of ideas, a lot of direction for my vision for this program. Your task is to organize these thoughts into a clear plan, into this vision.md documentation file. Do not write any code yet, just help me organize my thoughts and help me plan this out. Think harder, be concise. All right, so I just spent a solid 2-3 minutes speaking what I want to build. And again, this is the difference between noobs and beginners that build absolute slop with AI and people who can build real production applications like me, because I've built a startup that is doing over $10,000 a month in monthly recurring revenue. And we have over 65,000 people who've used it, Vector.ai, and it's running in production. And I'm using AI to build it. Yeah, it's hundreds of thousands of lines of code, and it works, and it's improving every single day. And this is the difference between people like me who can build real software with it. And by the way, I'm not like a, I know that sounded super egotistical, but I know I'm like level 1 out of 100 levels when it comes to building a software company, right? That's why I'm reading all these books, and that's why I'm learning like crazy, because I recognize that I know nothing. But still, I have been able to build and deploy a real software application that is used by tens of thousands of people versus these vibe coders that build shitty software, complete slop that nobody uses. Even they themselves don't use it because they don't even describe what they want to build. They don't take even just 2 or 3 minutes to sit down and really think through what are you trying to build? What is the thing I'm building? How should it work? How should it feel? Is it a web application? Is it a script? Is it a mobile app? Is it an extension? Just put in some effort, guys. Put in some preparation. This alone will make your apps and make your experience with AI 5 times, 10 times better. Anyways, we have this markdown file, and we can see that it's now better organized. We can see we have the key algorithm, user experience flow, technical stack, and yeah, another thing I'm actually going to do, we switch to the browser again, load up Perplexity, and I'm going to do idea, should be like project, whatever. And I'm going to say, your task is to look up the Anthropic docs necessary to build this chat application idea. Give me detailed step-by-step instructions of how to implement this in Python in my backend. So again, I'm using the best tools available. So Perplexity Deep Research is very solid to do the job, right? All right, so we have the Deep Research results. I'm going to copy that. And I'm going to create a new file for this. I'm going to do Anthropic docs, because we don't want to redoing the same web search over and over. And this is an essential part of this app. So now I'm going to say follow vision and Anthropic docs and actually build this app. .env. And then here, I'm going to add this information. The Anthropic API key is stored in the .env file named as Anthropic API key. Okay. So that, because the coding agents usually cannot access env files, right? You can see this is blocked by gitignore, and Claude Code cannot read it or cannot change it for security reasons, which is good. But we also need to give it, like, that means we need to give it instructions about how this is structured, right? So I'm going to add this later. It doesn't matter. Here you can actually see the env. That's kind of crazy. But yeah, we're going to launch this, launch Claude Code, get it started. And this is just a very first, very rough version of what this algorithm could look like for optimizing time to first token. And the difference is that rather than this and preloading websites is that there is a way lower cost, right? Preloading a website. Doing an API call is kind of expensive, but I don't know. I thought about this, and I think something like this will exist. Maybe in an expensive, paid application only, because for free users this is not feasible at all. And maybe only for certain models. Maybe Gemini 3 will be very cheap, but yeah, it doesn't exist yet. Nobody yet invented this, and so I got the idea to build it. And I think this is a much cooler project than just yet another vibe-coded website that's just an MVP of some front end, right? This is a novel algorithm that, as I said, I got the idea to build it as I was falling asleep. So it's solving a real problem, which is reducing time to first token, aka making your experience in a chat-based application faster, smoother, more pleasant. So we can already see how Claude Code works here. And again, we're using the extension here. We have Codex on the side. We're not using it yet. What I should have done and what I would have done if I was working. See, like, it's much easier to build from scratch, right? Because then you really can use the power of AI and you can execute 50 times faster. If I was building a feature for Vectel, my startup, I would first create a plan, and I can actually, feel free to screenshot it and steal it. But basically what I do is I send this and I paste in the plan. So I asked both the models, both Codex and Claude Code, to analyze all the relevant files and create a simple step-by-step plan for how to best implement this feature, this change, this refactor, whatever I'm doing. I get both of them to implement a plan, and then using this prompt, I insert it in between these XML tags, and I get the other model to rate the plan of the other model. And almost always they agree that the Codex created plan is better. I would say probably 90% of scenarios. I mean, to be honest, if I could choose, right? Because I'm using both, because both do exist. But if I could choose, wow, it's already finished. Yeah, this model is great. It's very fast. But to be honest, if I could only choose to have access to one tool, it would be Codex. Even though it's not as good to work with, even though it's not as polished as the Claude Code interface, it is a more powerful model. GPT-5 Codex High, it is the best model for coding right now in the world. It makes way less errors. It designs a simpler solution. It puts in more work, more reasoning, more preparation. but it's not as pleasant to work with. It uses complex language. It doesn't explain concepts well. It doesn't format its answers in a readable way. It often overthinks simple changes that could be like 5 seconds, and it takes like minutes analyzing everything, overthinking. It's not as pleasant to work with, but it is more powerful. No questions asked. So let's see, we have the app finished, I guess. What do we need to do? Start it. How do I start it? Think hard, answer in short. In the meantime, we'll go to the browser. We need to load up Anthropic console. All right, let's log in. Okay, next up, go to the top right, click on Create Key. I'm gonna go with Claude AI, and I'm gonna do a test video. Boom, copy key. Do not share your API keys with anybody. Treat them as passwords. I'm gonna delete my key before uploading this video, okay? So I'm gonna paste it into env file, I'm gonna save it, and then let's see what needs to happen. We have the env, okay, we need to install requirements, so let me do that. Conda env list, conda activate testing, pip install requirements txt, clear, and then what do we need to do? Python m server, or just Python server, Python server.py. Pro tip, if you're using the terminal, you can just press tab, right? So I type in SE and it already knows I want to go server. So you don't need to finish the whole thing. Just press tab inside of a terminal. It's actually a very OP thing to do. Okay, so we have an error. So I'm going to screenshot it. I'm going to send it back. I'm going to say the app does not start. Error, XML tags, paste in the terminal output, error. Think harder and implement a clean and minimal fix. And then I'm going to use Codex, new chat. What does it want to do? Well, okay, whatever. So we have this. I'm going to say test, send. Doesn't send. Oh yeah, I was accessing the WebSocket. That's a lame mistake. However, wait, why is the WebSocket disconnected? Maybe to restart it. I cannot send a message now. Error, boom, error, investigate this, and output a concise report. Do not make any changes yet, just answer in short. Okay, and then I'm gonna run the same thing into Codex and look how much work Codex will do. This just answered instantly, which maybe it's correct, maybe it's not correct, right? Sometimes it is good to have a fast answer, but if you want to build serious software, this is very bad practice. Claude Code just rushes into assumptions. It jumps to conclusions, makes assumptions way too fast. It's not good. One thing I do want to show you though is when you do terminal, Claude, there's a new feature, /rewind, where you can restore the conversation to previous point. The problem is that you've seen a lot of people talk about these checkpoints. First of all, there's 2 issues with this. It was always accessible just by pressing escape, right? So you could have pressed escape twice and go to the past previous conversations. This was always a feature. So all the influencers talking about this, like this is a new thing. It's not a new thing. Second of all, learn how to use Git, okay? Just you can ask, teach me how to use Git. What are the fundamentals of using Git to build a startup? What are the essential commands I need to know? Explain what Git is and how to use it. Use the AI to teach you. This is the best thing about Claude Code and about this model in particular, Sonnet 4.5. As I said, it's much better at writing. So I'm going to say, implement a clean and minimal fix. Both of them basically agree that it's a WebSocket 13 thing. The biggest thing, the best decision you can do is using AI to upskill yourself. And Claude-based models, all of them are much better at teaching and explaining than GPT models. Like you'll see, the way Codex types is just, it's not, I mean, again, it's fine-tuned for code, right? It's GPT-5 Codex. It's not meant to be a educational, conversational model. On the other hand, Claude models are amazing at learning stuff. And this is how you should use it. When you have a bad error, you should reduce technical debt by trying to understand it yourself, rather than trying to instantly ask the AI to fix it. The problem with Codex is that it doesn't do a good job explaining it. It just doesn't write in a clean way, in an explanatory, conversational way. Claude Code, on the other hand, is excellent at formatting, at explaining, simplifying, summarizing. It's still a great coding model, don't get me wrong. And for certain things, I certainly prefer it, like when I know exactly what to do and it's a safe, targeted change, working with Claude Code is much better. But if I'm doing something new, something risky, some big refactor, some serious bug, I'm gonna definitely trust Codex because it just does way more preparation. That is the truth. But again, the best thing is using both and then copying the plan one of them gives you, feeding it to the other one, and asking which plan is better and why. And most of the times, both of the models will agree, and most of the times they will agree that the Codex plan is better. So yeah, this is my current setup, and this is what I'm using for 4, 5, 6, 7, sometimes 8, sometimes more hours a day to build my startup and to build all kinds of software. And yeah, this is a huge update to Claude Code, but don't let those influencers tell you like it's some crazy new thing, because it's mostly just polishes and, you know, switch to a proper extension, which you can use in VS Code and VS Code forks like Cursor and Windsurf. A lot of people are still scared of the terminal, which is a big mistake. If you spend a couple of hours learning how basic terminal commands and how to use it and what it is, it's not that scary. It's not that deep, you know. Anyways, let's see. So we fixed this, or I mean, Codex fixed it. We could have had Claude Code fix it as well. Let me clear this up, restart the server. We need to reinstall the requirements.txt. Okay, pip install dash requirements.txt. Again, I press tab to save time. And then I'm going to do python server.py. Reload this. We have the WebSocket connected at the bottom now. That's beautiful. So I can say, hey, let's see if it responds. We need to see. Okay, so we are getting responses from Anthropic API. Who are you? Beautiful. Now, obviously, this is a disgusting UI, but I want to see if it does the optimistic preloading. So let me type in something slowly. Help me understand Git. Then optimistic preloading started. Boom! I didn't even have to. Okay, so it doesn't work perfectly as I want it to work yet. I don't want it to like display into the UI. I just want us to have it. And then only when I hit enter, we would have it, okay? So I'm going to describe that, but it's already really good. Already achieves the purpose. Okay, so I fixed the issue. The next problem is that I do not want to show the results in the UI until the user actually presses enter, right? So again, this should be a silent API call. It should be optimistically sending it. And we should be like saving the output that we get from Anthropic API when the user stops typing for more than 700 milliseconds. However, we should not show it in the chat until the user actually hits enter. And then obviously, since it's an Anthropic model, typing ultra thing will cause it to spend more tokens on reasoning. So that's another pro tip. But you can see that we fixed like 2 small things. We need a way to clear the chat. So when that's happening, I'm gonna use Codex. Please update the UI so that it's more minimalistic, clean, and much better designed. This is just way too basic and it's ugly as fuck. So make the design look better, and also add a button to clear the conversation and start a completely new chat from scratch. Analyze all of the relevant files and implement these small changes in a simple and clean way. Don't overthink this. The fewer lines of code, the better. And I'm going to change to medium reasoning effort because I don't want this to be running for 5 minutes. Okay, so Claude Code is fixing this. It should do the optimistic call, but it shouldn't display until I've actually hit enter, right? Until the user has hit enter. Some people prefer Codex for UI. To be honest, I mostly use Claude Code for UI, so I don't know. People have bad taste, I guess. But let's see. I'm going to say, what is Git all about? Help me understand Git commit. Wait, optimistic preload started. I'm not going to be sending enter. Preloading, okay, preloading. I'm going to hit enter. Boom! Amazing! Now it works how I want it, okay? So basically, if you're typing, I mean, obviously this is going to burn through cost. This is not a... If you are on a limited budget, you cannot build solutions like this. However, do you see the potential in this? We could change the optimistic preloading to be adaptive for each user, right? So it can measure your average VPM, words per minute, and then like once it notices a slowdown, or maybe we can make it like based on a sentence, right? So if there's like a dot, word and a dot, it's probably end of a sentence, which indicates that the user is probably about to send the prompt. And then we can do the preloading like that. There is a lot of ways we can optimize this to be more reliable and more cost effective. But you can already see the potential in this. I mean, I can already see the potential in this. I don't know if you guys can see it, but yeah, something like this will exist in the future. Because, time to first token is just essentially in a chatting application, chat-based AI application. And what I just built in a few prompts with Sonnet 4.5 already is a clear proof of concept, where like if you stop typing for a bit and then you hit enter, it already was saving this on the backend and the message was already written. But if I continue typing, actually we can test that. Help me understand fast API versus Django. Wait, I'm gonna have it start, okay, and we'll say which is better and why. This should kill the previous request. Yes, it didn't like preload the previous request, it did a new one. That's good. That's good. Okay, we need to restart the UI, I guess. Let's see, reload. Oh, we have a nicer new UI. List out 10 benefits of using Git. Yeah, this is a much cleaner UI. Hey, maybe actually Codex is better at UI than I thought. We're gonna have to test it more. But yeah, this is the current workflow. Codex for risky, important actions. Claude Code for fast work where you're doing something specific. It is safe, you know what you're doing, and you want to move fast. Claude Code, you want to iterate fast. Claude Code is the way to go. And especially now with 4.5 Sonnet, it's just got a huge power up, a huge speed up, and it's more cost efficient, and you're not going to be reaching limits as fast. And really, I want to stress it again. The best way to use Claude Code is for learning. All the Claude models, again, you should use both, right? Both Codex and Claude Code, but anything you're doing, whether it's fixing a bad bug or implementing a new feature or extending your code base, refactoring, you should seek understanding. Even if you're using AI agents to move faster, which, guys, I'm like the person who benefited the most. Like, there's a few people who built an entire startup from scratch with AI, with less previous experience than me, okay? Whatever, I just benefited insanely from using AI coding, okay? And my productivity speed up was crazy. And I'm still telling you that you should be seeking to understand what it's doing as much as possible. The goal of every vibe coder should be to become a real coder. There is a reason, again, I know I mentioned this, I'm reading these fucking books. Why? Because I've hit the limits of vibe coding. At a certain point, you have to realize I am the limiting factor. You have to see okay, the code base is a mess. It's not modular at all. It's overcomplicated. There's too much technical debt. At that point, you have to realize, okay, LLMs are great at following instructions. But if you give them bad instructions, you're going to get bad results. So use this to upskill yourself. This is the biggest differentiator. A lot of people have this mindset of oh, I'm just going to use AI models. They're improving fast, right? Models are improving fast. There's no point learning this. In 5 years, the models will be able to do it. So what are you going to do in 5 years? What are you going to do in the next 5 years? Just sit around and be mediocre and gain no advantage over others? You have such an amazing opportunity to upskill yourself faster than ever before. If you want to truly get this to the fullest potential, you should become a software developer. You should learn the art of software engineering and the software development. And again, not remembering pointless syntax, but understanding the big picture concepts. Again, if you don't even know how to use Git or the terminal, what are you doing? Humble yourself and use the AI to learn these complicated concepts, right? Programming, coding can be intimidating if you're new to this. But you can use the AI to explain it in a simple way, right? So you could say, explain to me the difference between object-oriented programming and functional programming using simple and plain English, as if I knew nothing about software engineering. This is something that was not possible before. Before you could only use Google or YouTube and kind of hope that someone explained it, and it's still very slow. With AI, you can learn so much faster than it was ever possible. And this really is the differentiator. People who will use AI to upskill themselves, I don't care if it's marketing, sales, or if it's programming. Whatever skill you identify is going to take you to your goals, you should be using AI to master that skill and become the best in the world. Obviously, if you're building startups and if you're using AI to build software, it is going to speed you up, without a doubt. And the models will keep getting better, and the tooling and the AI agent support will get better. All of that is true. But imagine if you yourself also become better at the same time. And you have two exponentials compounding on top of each other. Those are the people who are going to absolutely dominate, not the people who just sit around and is like, yeah, there is no point of learning programming. The models are going to be better programmers than us. It's like, all right, bro, if that's your mindset, then feel free to just sit around and do nothing. But I would encourage you guys to use these tools to build a future that you want to see. A lot of people are building AI slop. We see this from Meta and OpenAI. They're releasing short-form AI videos. Disgusting. Disgusting. This is like societal decline. It doesn't benefit society or humanity at all. And I would encourage anyone working in those companies to leave and build something meaningful. Build the future you want to see. Use it to solve diseases, to cure important issues, to discover new science, invent new technology, solve mathematical problems. Build great software. That's how these models should be used. Not for slop, for endless entertainment, like ruining society, or like same with Grok. This like AI girlfriends, disgusting, guys. It's just terrible. So if you are someone who wants to use these models to build something great, if you're watching this video, you're probably like an ambitious individual that's hardworking, that is above average IQ, that pays attention to current trends. Use that power to build something meaningful. Build the future you want to see, not a future full of AI slop. Use these tools to learn how to actually build great software. And if you're going to become a ultra wealthy, ultra successful individual, do it in a way that you can look back when you're 80 and be proud of, rather than building these dopamine-inducing AI slop machines. So yeah, I gave you the blueprint. I showed you the path, how to fix bugs, how to use these tools. It is up to you to take action and execute. So with that being said, thank you for watching and have a wonderful, productive week. See ya.